So we just traveled around Mexico for 3 weeks, and in this video I will summarize all our major tips if you plan a trip to Mexico, and I will also show you all the places we've been to if you just want to get inspired by beautiful sceneries. But let's talk about safety first to get this topic off the table, because before we went to Mexico most of the people said be careful. But there wasn't a single situation where we didn't feel safe. If you go to the right places and if you're not naive, you shouldn't have any problem at all. In general, Mexico is a cheap travel destination. You pay between 20 to 100 pesos for a meal. You can pay 250 pesos to travel by bus to another city, and on average you pay between 250 to 500 pesos for a hostel. And how to travel around the country. The first half of our trip we traveled together with our friends who are living in Mexico, so our friends were driving. We also met several more people who just rented a car and drove around Mexico. 3 tips if you plan to travel around Mexico by car. First of all, try to get petrol whenever you see a gas station, because sometimes there is no gas station for like 100 kilometers. We almost ran out of gas once. Don't drive at night. Remember, don't be naive. Number 3, it's quite common in Mexico that some roads are blocked, so always plan enough time if you want to get from A to B. The second half of our trip, we traveled by bus, which is also quite easy. We recommend that you always try to take those high-class buses. There's like one main company called ADO. Like I said, it's about 250 pesos in average, depending on the length of the trip, and those buses in general are safe. The bus terminals are really good. Our tip here, if you travel during high season, you should always book your bus ticket 1 day before. During our whole trip we almost didn't really stay in hotels, we only stayed in hostels or bungalows. Most of the hostels are really clean, they are affordable, and they're also quite stylish, quite colorful, and also a little bit hippie, which is really nice. So you should definitely consider to stay in hostels. As you can imagine, the Mexican food is the best. We also found many vegetarian and also vegan options like we didn't experience in other countries we traveled to before. So here are some meals you need to try. Quesadillas with frijoles, mole, chilaquiles, molletes, guacamole with totopos. You should also definitely try those drinks. Agua de Jamaica, horchata, and michelada con salsa. So this was a very quick introduction. Now you're ready to go to Mexico. Just to talk quickly about visa, we got visa on arrival. We didn't need to pay for this, and we were allowed to stay for about 180 days. So let's talk about our travel route. We traveled from Mexico City to the very east of the country. Mexico is huge. It's almost as big as Europe, so there are many places you can visit. On this map you can see the places we went to. But let's start with Mexico City, as this was our starting point, and I think for most of the people who travel to Mexico, this will be like your first city you go to, as most of the flights go to Mexico City. So Mexico City is huge. About 22 million people are living in this city. I was expecting to get overwhelmed by the city so that we don't know how to handle it. It wasn't like that at all. If you've been to Bangkok or Jakarta, Mexico City is an easy city. If you stay in the center close to the Ángel de Independencia and the big street called Reforma, everything is good here. It's clean, it's safe, you have a lot of restaurants, so this really surprised us. 2 tips for Mexico City. First of all, go to the supermarket called OXXO and buy a SIM card. We paid 150 pesos for the SIM card and charged it for 200 pesos. And normally we're not really buying SIM cards to get connected to the internet, but in this case this is really useful, as you can use Uber in Mexico City and in other big cities around Mexico. This is our second tip. Download Uber and use it, because it's really safe and also really cheap. You pay around about 100 pesos for a Uber ride. We did it all the time in Mexico City. And as we didn't have much time in Mexico City, only like 1.5 days, We had to hurry up a little bit, and this is what we recommend. We took a tourist bus around the city, which was 120 pesos per person, and this bus takes you to all the main places. As the city is so big, it's a good way to see a lot. We also visited the Blue House of Frida Kahlo and the area or suburb where this house is, which is really nice. Also a lot of restaurants, really colorful, a good place to go. So a tip for the House of Frida Kahlo: buy the ticket online on the website one day before and try to go early in the morning, because otherwise you need to queue up for that. So our next stop was Puebla. We went to the big bus terminal in Mexico City called Tapo, and in Puebla we got picked up by our friends Neil and Alex, who live in Puebla. We stayed at their place. They showed us the city of Puebla and Cholula. And here we started our road trip.
Road trip, bitches!
The first day was only driving. We stayed in a city called Tuxtla. We only stopped here because we had to stay somewhere. The city is not that great in our opinion, but we still had a good time though. On the next day we drove to the next town, like one town further from Tuxtla, which is called Chiapa de Corzo. And here you can do a really nice boat cruise to a canyon. From here we drove to San Cristóbal de las Casas, which is a cute little town. It was also quite crowded. You have a lot of markets, nice restaurants. You can also have a great view if you walk up a hill to a church. And we stayed in a nice hippie hostel, which was really cool.
Pero ahora vivimos en el norte, en Hamburgo. Es más bonito.
So from San Cristóbal you can go to Palenque, and on the way you can have a couple of stops. You can see some waterfalls, and for example we went to that pyramid called Tonina. This pyramid is not that popular but still nice, and there are not many people.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Another stop you need to do, and here there will be many people, it's called Aqua Azul. The water is blue, it's just an amazing place to cool off, and we were waiting to get here. So next stop was Palenque. We stayed here for one night in a bungalow in the middle of the jungle next to the pyramids, so we could go there early in the morning, which we would recommend so there are not too many people. So we didn't really see the city of Palenque at all. So we just drove further to Bacalar, which was quite a long ride, but this was one of our favorite places. We stayed here for a couple of days and we just relaxed. The town or city of Bacalar is just next to a lagoon, which is crystal clear blue water. We rented some stand-up paddlers early in the morning around 6:30 to see the sunrise, and we also did a great sailing trip around the lagoon for about 600 pesos per person. So this was the end of our road trip. Alex and Nele went back home and we met some other Germans who took us to Tulum actually. Thank you for that. And we stayed for 2 nights in Tulum. Tulum is quite touristy as well, but also quite hippie again. You have great restaurants again. We really like Tulum.
Don't worry, come to Mexico. Don't worry, come to Mexico.
So if you only have 2 days like we had, our tip is to stay in the center of the city and take a bus to the beach and the ruins instead of staying on the beach and taking a bus to the city all the time. Look at that. So we took a colectivo for 20 pesos per person from the city center to the ruins of Tulum. Try to get there really early. We went there around 10ish, 11, which was quite too late because there were many people queuing up. Second tip, take your Visa card with you as there's a ticket counter only for Visa cards, which is way faster than queuing up paying with cash.
Be happy wherever you are. Feel happy inside of your heart. Don't worry, cause everything will pass. Don't worry, nothing will last. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Don't worry.
After we were done with the ruins of Tulum, we took a colectivo straight from the ruins to a cenote called Dos Ojos. They drop you on the highway and you just walk to the entrance of Dos Ojos. The entrance fee was actually quite expensive, 350 pesos per person, but it's worth it. It was a really good trip. Our tip, if you have some goggles at home or some snorkel equipment, take it to Mexico so you don't need to rent it. You can use it like every now and then anyways. So in Tulum we bought a bus ticket to Chiquila. Chiquila is the gateway to Holbox. Here you can buy a ferry ticket once you arrived. There are many ferries going all over the day, so don't stress out about ferry tickets. It's a 30 minutes ride from Chiquila to Holbox. The island is just beautiful, but unfortunately we were sick for 2 days and the weather was really shit. But then suddenly, one evening, the sun came back. We saw this beautiful sunset. We still had some really nice days. Our tip is to stay on the east of the main beach, as the beach is much nicer over here and you're closer to the city center. There are more restaurants. We stayed on the west and we couldn't really get food. 2 places you should definitely visit once you're on Holbox: Punta Cocos and also Punta Mosquito. You can walk, it takes some time, but you can walk to Punta Mosquito and you walk over some sandbanks. This was really beautiful. By the way, if you plan to go to Holbox, and if you can, try to go there between July and August, as this is the time of the year. You can see flamingos all over the place, dolphins, and also some whale sharks. From Holbox we went to a place called Valladolid. It took some time to find out how to get from Holbox to Valladolid, as there are not many buses going, but it's actually quite easy. So you go to Chiquila and there is a bus going to a city called Chichén, which costs about 95 pesos. It's like a public bus, and the bus stops just next to another ADO terminal in Chichén, and here you can buy a bus ticket from Chichén to Valladolid for 30 pesos. That's nothing. Valladolid is a beautiful city, nice cafes, really colorful again, not that many tourists, even though this is the gateway to Chichén Itzá. We stayed in a great hostel called Candelaria, and we could even log our backpacks over here and go to Chichén Itzá in the next morning. So if you plan to go to Chichén Itzá, or they also call it chicken pizza, you should definitely think about going there really early in the morning. We took a colectivo at 7:30 in the morning. It takes 45 minutes to get to the entrance. You pay 242 pesos as a entrance fee, and seriously, there was nobody. We didn't queue up to get a ticket. So we went back to Valladolid, and from here we took a bus to Playa de Carmen, which was our last stop, actually, our last real stop. It's really touristy over here. You almost don't see any Mexican. You can have Italian food, Japanese food, whatever you would like to eat. It's a city just at the Caribbean Sea. The water is crystal clear again, and it's also a good place if you're looking for some party. Yeah, this was our last real stop. So from here we flew back to Puebla and then back home. And to summarize our trip, Mexico is a stunning place to visit. And I'm really happy if you're still watching this video right now. I mean, please leave a comment if you got anything to say, if you have any question. If this video helped you, please give me a thumb up. And if you want to see more travel videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.